Budget days don't usually attract this kind of media frenzy. But then with inflation higher than it's been in more than a quarter century, Malaysians were keen to hear what the government would do to ease their burden. And then there was the Anwar Ibrahim factor. The former Deputy Prime Minister and current opposition leader was back in Parliament after a 10-year absence. Anwar vows he can convince enough members of Parliament from the ruling coalition to defect to his side that he'll soon become Prime Minister. The current Prime Minister, Abdullah Badawi, addressed the threat in his budget speech.
We need to get on with the business of governing and not waste any more time with opportunistic threats to seize the people's mandate through undemocratic means in Malaysia.
Top priority was to wrestle with what, by Malaysian standards at least, is high inflation, about 8.5% month on month, and to stimulate growth, expected to be about 5.5% this year. The budget contained income tax cuts and rebates, breaks for home buyers, a widening of the social safety net for the poor, scrapping some import duties, and a huge boost in spending on public transport.
The key goals of the budget was to make sure that the people as a whole, and the lower income group in particular, are not unduly burdened by the inflationary pressures.
It also contained plenty of stimuli to encourage domestic spending.
This budget also focused a great deal really on creating the environment for growth, making sure that the momentum of growth continues, and making sure that the economy continues to have the resilience to ensure growth.
Government spending will rise significantly, and after declining for several straight years, the deficit will rise along with it.
The Malaysian government is unable to balance the budget. It shows that the country is spending more than what it is earning. You can do that for 1 year, you can do it for 2 years, but you cannot keep on doing it as a standard operating procedure.
Despite the twin challenges of higher inflation and slowing growth, the Malaysian economy is still scoring well on some key fronts. On the services side, relatively new industries like Islamic banking and finance and business process outsourcing are doing well, as is tourism. Exports are still growing at double-digit levels, largely driven by commodities such as palm oil, but with manufacturing also showing surprising resilience.
Malaysia is going to fare a lot better this time round in times of difficulty than during the Asian crisis, for example. The business sector is a very different picture today than it was 10 years ago. Corporate balance sheets are generally very healthy now. Banks generally have actually learned from the excesses that they were involved in the Asian crisis.
And while portfolio investors may be a bit spooked by the political jockeying between the ruling coalition and the invigorated opposition, foreign direct investment so far this year is well above last year's levels.
When I talk to foreign investors, the impression that I get is that Malaysia is moving in the right direction, in the sense it's moving towards a two-party system, which is good for governance and transparency, accountability, and crusade against corruption.
And since the chastening results of March's general election, the government has appeared to step up its fight against corruption. In recent weeks, the country's anti-corruption agency has gone after the heads of 2 major government departments, with more charges against bureaucrats, politicians and business people coming by the day. Abdullah Badawi's ruling coalition will be counting on such measures, coupled with the benefits of its budget, to shore up public support and try to ensure that Anwar's vow to take power remains an idle threat.